Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Kidney Connections. We're so excited that you're here for our very first webinar. I am Rachel DePaw. I'm the Vice President of Programs at the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois, and our mission is to improve the health and well-being of people at risk for or affected by kidney disease through prevention, education, and empowerment. And today's program will hopefully do just that. Also, just a really quick reminder to follow us on social media and to check out our podcast, The Journey Continues, which shares really powerful stories of powerful kidney stories and organ transplantation stories. At this time, I'm really pleased to welcome our moderator, Anitha Phillip. And Anitha has been a registered nurse since 1998, including 16 years as a nurse practitioner. She earned her Doctor of Nursing Practice from Rush University in Chicago in 2020 and has been caring for patients with chronic kidney disease and those who are on dialysis for many years. She is a certified nephrology nurse practitioner and earned fellowship of the National Kidney Foundation. She loves educating patients, families, and the community about kidney disease and is grateful to be a part of Kidney Connections and looking forward to learning from our incredible participants and audience. So at this time, Anitha, I'm so happy to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Well, welcome to Kidney Connections. Thank you for joining us for Kidney Connections. This program provides an opportunity to make connections with the kidney community, including patients and experts, so we can have a conversation and learn from each other. Today is the first edition of the program and is a lunch and learn conversation with our amazing panel. Stay tuned throughout the year because we'll have 3 more chances to make some kidney connections, 2 more webinars, and 1 in-person networking and educational event this fall. So I would just kind of like to go ahead and ask each panelist to introduce themselves and share a little bit about your experiences in about 2 to 3 minutes. For those of you who have been a transplant recipient, I would like to ask how long you've had their transplant, and if there's, and then as we go along, I'm going to just kind of ask a group question and also individual questions. So I'm going to lead to the panelists at this time. I'll start with Jerry, Mr. Jerry Taylor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. My name is Jerry Taylor. I currently am the Deputy Chief of HR for Chicago Public Schools. I am also a kidney recipient. I was diagnosed with FSGS back in 2003. I was on dialysis for 8 years until I got that lucky call to have a kidney transplant. I've been received my kidney February 1st of 2017. So the kidney and I are doing great. Thank you for all the donors, etc., that are on the call today or just out there in the world. Happy you guys are able here to join us today. So just looking forward to discussing, following up with any question anyone has today. But again, just thank you for allowing me to be in this space with you all today.
And next we'll go with Mr. Terry Calhoun. I'm sorry, I hope I pronounced your last name correct.
Calhoun, but it's good. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. And thank you for our fellow panelists who is a lab donor. We really appreciate you. I was diagnosed with renal failure in 2004 when I suffered my first stroke. I was on peritoneal dialysis at home for 7 years, and I was transplanted exactly 7 years ago, February 2017. So I'm 7 years kidney strong. When I was transplanted, it was what they considered to be, quote unquote, a lazy kidney. So I was on hemodialysis while I was in the hospital for about a month. I'm grateful to be able to be a volunteer with the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois. I'm glad to be of service and glad to be able to tell a little bit of my story, to have the camaraderie of others who have gone through similar situations and to be amongst a company of people who are still trying to get to a solution for people who suffer through renal failure. We know that dialysis and a transplant are both just temporary solutions. It will never be fixed, but it does provide a means to an end, if you will. So thanks to everybody, and I appreciate being here today.
Okay, next we will go to Mr. Carter Freeman.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carter Freeman, and I'm a 3-time kidney recipient. It started as kind of a surprise. Back in 1992, we were expecting our first child. I went in to get more life insurance, and they said, well, not only are we not going to give you life insurance, but you're going to need a kidney transplant someday. And I was in denial for a long time. But by 1996, I was on fumes, and my mom donated a kidney to me. Don't know why, but after 2 years, I rejected that kidney. And that was really a tough loss. But in 1998, my brother donated a kidney to me. And that one has lasted all the way until last October. That's when my donor, Bill Boscow, contacted me, and he's in one of the panels here that you see. And Bill and I have been best friends since we first met in 1980 in college. And I'm in Minnesota, so I'm a guest here, and I really appreciate being here. The reason I'm here is because Bill is from Illinois, and that should tell you the sacrifices he had to make, not only just to make this incredible gift that he did, but the travel involved. He travels for work. He's really the story. He went to hospitals all over the country for tests that he needed. He came up to Minnesota multiple times because that's where the transplant was performed. So as I mentioned, he's the story, as are all of the donors out there. I've, like most, if not all, recipients, have experienced many setbacks, many challenges, some side effects along the way, but those all pale to the life that I've been able to have. It's been the biggest blessing I could imagine, because it truly is new life, literally. And so for that, I'm extremely grateful. Probably the biggest challenge in being a recipient is knowing how to say thanks. And there's no way. You can't do it. So the only thing that I've been able to put my arms around this whole thing is knowing that I would do the same for those who have given to me and many, many others if I were in that same position. And just really trying to live a life that's worthy of these gifts. So hope I can be a resource for anybody. And it's an emotional thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Thank you for sharing that with us. You're very strong. Next, we will go to Kimberly. Thank you, Kimberly, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I am a 4-time kidney transplant recipient. I received my first transplant in 2008 from my cousin who was in Texas. I had found out just before that Thanksgiving that I needed a kidney, and we were at Thanksgiving dinner, and I announced to my family, and my cousin so cavalierly just said, "Pass the turkey, you can have mine." And that following March, we found ourselves in the OR. He did all of his testing from Texas and flew back and forth to Chicago. That kidney lasted until 2011, until the unexpected death of my mother, which caused me to put a lot of stress on my kidney. And then I was in dialysis for 3 years post that. And then in 2014, my father gave me life twice, and he gave me his kidney. That kidney lasted until 2018, and at which time if you ever want to be humbled, my husband and my son both fought over who was going to donate their kidney, and my husband won out. So I guess there was a plan when we met on a blind date that he would be a match to give me his kidney and give me yet again the gift of life. That kidney lasted until 2020, when I found out unexpectedly that I had a brain tumor and had brain cancer. Mm-hmm. And the decision had to be made in that moment in order to treat the brain tumor or save my life. And the doctor just said it just that bluntly. And it's hard when you're standing next to the man that had made a sacrifice to save your life by giving you a kidney to make that choice. And I think that people question that, but anybody that has received a kidney, you feel a sense of accountability and responsibility. So I lost that kidney and had to go back onto dialysis. And I was on dialysis from 2020 until June of 2023, when I received a call at 6 o'clock in the morning that they had found another kidney for me. And so here I sit almost a year later on my fourth kidney. And as everybody has echoed, I am extremely grateful. And I have been through having the sacrifice made from living donors. So I tell everyone that my family truly is the reason that I am still alive. And I give thanks for all of those donors and family that have made a choice so that I could stand in many, many moments that I have prayed to be in because of organ donation. I was able to see my kids not only graduate from junior high, high school, and college. I was able to become an aunt, a moment that I never thought I would be, and go to dance recitals and see proms and graduation. It truly, truly is an honor. And for me, I believe that to whom much is given, much is required. And I volunteer and give my time back to the National Kidney Foundation. I give my time back to the hospital that saved my life. I'm at UIC right now. And I'm about to go meet with a couple of patients in between my own doctor's appointments. So I believe that I'm being a resource, and I believe in being the person which I had when I was going through the process, so that I can give back to others as they embark on their transplant journey. So I'm just grateful to be here. I thank you all for joining us. And if I can be of any help whatsoever, I'm here.
Thank you for that powerful story, Kimberly. You've come a long way. I'm really sorry I'm having issues with my video here. Can anyone see me, or are you not able to see me?
No, we don't see you.
Mm-mm.
But here you're fine.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened to my video, so bear with me here, but I will figure it out. Okay, so next we're gonna go to Mary.
Hi, my name is Mary Saucier, and I was a kidney donor for my dad in 1982. So that's been about 42 years ago. My father went into what they call hypertensive crisis, and both of his kidneys shut down. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know what a dialysis machine was at that time. I thought his kidneys would come back, and that didn't happen. So he was on dialysis for 2 years and on peritoneal dialysis for 1 year. And I got to witness how hard dialysis was on him and the other patients in his dialysis unit and how they suffer. And he didn't want to do a kidney transplant.
I'm
He
late
was
for my
very
infusion.
Mary, you muted.
He was very hesitant about getting a kidney transplant. It was my brother and I, and he didn't want to do it. Well, we finally talked him into it. And luckily, I was a twin match. We did the transplant in 1982, and he lived 23 years without one rejection. And I just want to say that I am so grateful. We were very lucky. He led a wonderful life after that. He was able to continue golfing, fishing, all that stuff. And I'm just here, if there's anybody I can help, because I've seen both sides of it, please reach out to Rachel and she can get a hold of me. And I'm so happy how far we've come with transplants, because back then they only were doing family members and cadavers. And now with medicine and research, we can do more, and more people are able to give kidneys. So that's all I wanted to say, and bless everybody that's in this chat.
So I think Anitha may have dropped off, so I am just going to step in and I will ask Bill to introduce himself.
Sure. Well, hello, everybody. And first of all, Rachel, thanks so much for inviting me to be on this panel. It is obviously very, very moving to hear everyone's story. I'll be brief, at least that's what I'm saying now, but after 5 minutes, maybe I won't be so brief. I'll be brief about my story. I come from a family that has a bit of a history in terms of kidney donation, and for that matter, being a kidney recipient specifically. My sister, gosh, I guess it's been about 25 years ago, donated her kidney to our mother. Our mom was a brittle type 1 diabetic since I was born. That's when she was diagnosed, so back in 1961. So there you go, I'm dating myself. And it was great because my sister's kidney really gave my mom just a huge boost in terms of quality of life for so many years. And then after the kidney had run its course, my mom was on perinatal dialysis for quite some time. So our family has, again, some knowledge of kidney failure, kidney donation, et cetera. Fast forward to June of last year, my wife and I visited Carter and his family to celebrate our goddaughter's engagement party. And it was interesting seeing Carter, because a couple of years before that, a group of us from college went on a canoe trip up in the Boundary Waters area of Minnesota. And for those of you that have gone on a trip like that, it's a pretty physical effort to paddle, number one, but to carry canoes and all the belongings from one lake to another up in northern Minnesota, et cetera, et cetera. And Carter was able to hold his weight and then some. But in June of last year, it was clear that things had changed and changed, significantly. So my wife had volunteered to go through the testing and so forth, and made it, since it's baseball season, I'll say between third base and home plate as far as being approved to be a direct donor. And she was disqualified right at the end of that whole process. And when that happened, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and get tested. And it was really interesting from early July until, Carter, I'm trying to remember, I think it was mid-August when I finally received word that I had been approved to be a direct donor. Things just flew. And it was amazing. All the various tests which you're required to go through as far as being evaluated, I just checked each box. And it was amazing. And it was an amazing call to receive from my donor coordinator in mid-August, indicating that I had been approved to be a donor. And oh, by the way, I had been approved to be a direct donor. So when I think back to that, as I'm sitting here, it just causes me to shake. It's just quite a privilege and opportunity to be able to be in a position to make a profound difference in a person's life, and not just that person's life. It's all the people that that person touches, their family, their friends, their workmates, et cetera, et cetera. So it's I'm reminded, Carter, when you and I first spoke, and you said it here in this conversation, from a donor perspective, as you said, hey, if you were in the same seat, you would quickly step up to the plate. And that's, I'm just so fortunate to be in the position to be able to have done that as far as donating. So again, it's a pleasure to be here.
Wow. I'm very thrilled and fortunate to hear all these wonderful stories. I mean, these are real lifetime stories. You guys are just heroes. And I'm just thankful to be here and to be able to participate and to hear all these stories that you guys are also helping other patients who are also going through the same situation. And that's something to be very proud of. Your experience makes a huge difference on other people's lives. I would just like to ask a few questions, and I'd like to get an answer kind of from everyone because I like to get a perspective from everyone. I do have a separate question for Mr. Bill as a kidney donor. I would like to get his answer on this. How well were you prepared or knew what to expect before the transplant? I would like to start off this question with Jerry first.
Thank you, Anitha. I think, you know, your doctors, your transplant team can prepare you as much as possible, but you'll never know what you're getting into until you go through with it. They set you up, you know, tell you how things will go, but each of our stories are different. Each of our experiences are different. So for me, I didn't know what to expect. I just knew. And for me personally, I know Mary spoke about this. Technology has come so long, and you know, we advanced so much. For me, I went through the robotic transplantation. So for me being a heavier guy, you know, you had to, in the olden days, you had to lose some weight before you can get a transplant. But with the new technology, doctors were able to implement my transplant using a robotic method. So that is just something that I was not prepared for at all, to have a robot to cut on me, etc. So just being open-minded, being positive about the process, trusting the process, is something that I can just give to offer some feedback to it. You just have to just trust the process, and let things happen. Once you're in it, you're in it. You have an amazing transplantation team who will be able to guide you, but I don't think there's no real way that you can prep for it until you're there, because once you get that call, everything that you learned, it sometimes escapes you and you're just in it from that point on. So I hope that answered your question, Anitha, but that's my experience with it.
Okay, all right. And also, what advice would you give for kidney transplant recipients, especially when they approach a family or friend? This is I want to ask this question to Bill, and then I would also like to get an answer from Mary as well. When you approach a family or friend to donate their kidney, because a lot of times I get this from my patients, you know, you're asking me to go and ask someone to donate their kidney. That's a lot, you know. How do you want me to ask that question? Because they get very scared to ask that question. What is your answer? Or, you know, how would you say that a person should approach that, or approach anyone to ask that question? What encouragement would you give?
So,
And this is I would like to get this answer from Bill, Kimberly, Mary, anyone that can chime in, please. Go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. I'm not on the recipient side, but as a donor,
I'm sorry, I meant to say the donor. That's what I meant. Sorry about that.
well, that's
As a
okay.
donor, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. I think in terms of obviously learning that there's a person in need. For me to, basically raise my hand and say, gee, I'd like to be considered for donation. It took a while. It takes, I think, almost getting over the hump, so to speak, as far as understanding what's involved and processing not just the act of donating the actual surgery, but hey, what'll be the situation afterwards, and trying to, a lot of it's learning, I guess, and somebody, Anitha, may have been you, just in terms of understanding all that's involved. So for me, a lot of it was education, reading about it. And as I mentioned earlier, I was so fortunate with my sister to be able to talk with her and understand what her experience was. But then also some of the education. It's a life-changing experience. The part of donating, and just it changes. At least it has changed my perspective on life on many levels. But also part of the learning process for me was understanding that as far as post-surgery, really not much changed or has changed for me in terms of my daily activities, that sort of thing. I'm a pretty active 63-year-old guy. I'm still a kid at heart. I play hockey, I skate, I swim, I run. None of which, by the way, I do particularly well, but I enjoy that activity. And I was prepared to hear or receive information that, hey, you should probably cut out some of these things after the surgery. And part of the learning process was to learn that really wasn't necessary, that I can continue being active. In fact, I was encouraged not to change my activity level, whether it's the exercise, or for that matter, just what I do for work, which involves travel and therefore lifting and all that good stuff. So I think, hey, at the end of the day, it's always the case that knowledge is power, right? And to have the resources that Rush or the University of Minnesota bring to bear is great. But I also think it's so helpful personally to read as much as you can and learn as much as you can about the whole process, what's involved, and that sort of thing. And that, for me at least, when you have the knowledge, it takes some of that fear away. When you change what might be unknown into factors that are known.
Okay, so it looks like you did a lot of preparation ahead of time, which kind of helped you to just go in, and there were no surprises, so that's good.
Yes.
That's good. Kimberly, and I'm very motivated by your story, because
Thanks.
just hearing it, I've actually attended a conference once, and I've heard your story once, and I was very emotional. So
Thank
you for sharing that again. I wanted to find out what motivated you to stay strong, despite of the rejection you've had. Like, you've had it 4 times, what motivated to continue and to stay strong? And what is your advice that you can give for someone who's going through the same as you?
I think it's a, for me, I grew up, my kidney failure is a result of lupus, which is genetic. So I grew up watching my mom, and my uncle donated his kidney to her. So there was always this fear in the back of my mind that I would get it as well. But it's a shock when you get it. And when you face one rejection and you're doing everything right, it can be a real blow. But for me, what got me through really were my children. I remember the night of my son's 7th grade graduation, 8th grade graduation, I had had a rough year with a lot of admits, and I coded a couple times that year. And from that moment forward, I started living my life by milestones. If I could just get to see him graduate high school, if I could just see my daughter graduate from junior high, if I could get to see them graduate from, so it really, that's what kept me going, in all honesty. And it transferred to my entire team. I remember the night that my son was graduating from college, Mother's Day weekend, and I was in the hospital being treated for brain cancer, and that team just rallied and they kept my spirits high. But definitely trying to get through to the next thing. You know, how do you, my grandpa always said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And if you look at it in its totality, it can be overwhelming. But if you just go from one thing, one foot in front of the other, and surrounding yourself with people that really lift you up, which is also my motivation for being a peer mentor to others. And being there to just give them that motivation and being a face, because it really helps when I walk in and see a patient who has just been transplanted and they're feeling like, I can't do this. And they look at you and see that you made it through and you can help them visualize what it looks like to get on the other side of this and enjoy those moments and make more memories with family and friends and just life, because it is a different life when you get on the other side of it. And it's different. It's complete opposite. If you've been on dialysis, all the things they told you that you couldn't do, now you can do and have to do. So it is a lifestyle shift, but it's one that you accept because it's beautiful when you get on the other side. So you just surround yourself and stay focused and know and live life. And that's the best gift. After you receive the gift of life, that's the best gift you can give to that individual and that family that made that sacrifice for you, is to go out there and live life to the fullest.
Yes. So you have to stay strong. In order to stay strong, it looks like
Yes.
you've had a lot of family support, and also the fact that you didn't give up. You just kept going and you just treasured your gift.
Yes.
And that's wonderful to hear. Thank you. Jerry, you had your hand up. Did you have a question or?
I was just going to add to it. I can't speak from the donor aspect, but I had 2 live donors, and you asked what somebody can prepare for.
Correct.
I informed both of them prior to stepping up that at any point during this process, you can stop. I'm not the kidney repo man. You have to feel comfortable with it. And a good, close, dear friend and fraternity brother, Gregory D. Scannell, went through the process with me. When we started, he lived in Olympia Fields and I lived in Flossmoor. We weren't too far away, but he was transferred
I don't know.
to
Maybe
Houston.
I'm nervous because I'm on the call. Yeah.
And he still stuck with it. Fortunately, one of the physicians from where I was to be transplanted took over the University of Houston medical team. So he was able to do all this process, but I'll speed this up. The night before I was to be transplanted, we found out that he was stage 2 prostate cancer. So in turn, he stepped up for me, and the process in and of itself saved him and caught his prostate cancer before it could advance. Another good fraternity brother, Dr. Gregory Parks, put out a clarion call that I was in need of a transplant, and his line brother, Jason, stepped up. And Jason lived in Arizona. I was on Mayo Clinic's transplant list. He went through the Arizona Mayo Clinic process, and perfect match. And unfortunately, because of his profession as a physical therapist, Mayo Clinic informed him instead of being out for 12 weeks, he was going to have to be out for 16 weeks. And his employer initially was gung-ho, was going to put him on the front page of the employee newsletter. But when they told him 16 weeks, like, hey, you got to go on long-term disability. We will carry you for 12, but not 16. But I said all that to say that, you know, people who do step up and go through the process from A to Z, those are heroes, because it is not an easy
Definitely.
process. And they're always alerted. And I tell people all the time, you know, I went to renal failure because of hypertension. And they always ask the recipients, do you know why this person failed? Went into renal failure, and do you think that they will go back into renal failure? Will they change their habits? So I salute and applaud any donor.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Mary,
Yes.
I just want to make sure that, do you have any tips, anything that you can add to what's already been said, from your experience, like something that you can advise our patients who's waiting on for a transplant, you know, been on dialysis, anything that you can add?
I was a donor. From my perspective, my dad was 52 and he still had a long life to live. And
Mhm.
there was no questions asked. I wanted to donate. I did mine at Mayo Clinic, and
Mhm.
they, like I said, this was in 1982, and they brought me up for a month. And it was wonderful because they took me step through step, what the surgery consisted of. Um, they also did numerous amount of tests. Um, I knew, I mean, until you do it, you don't know how you're going to feel. But I knew basically what was coming, and my dad also knew what was coming. But it also was very helpful. Um, um, I have not had any physical setbacks. The surgery at that time was pretty traumatic because they it was a huge incision. But after I healed and everything, I've lived a perfectly normal life, and um, it was a wonderful experience. And if I could donate to anybody again, I would do it in a heartbeat. No
Okay.
hesitation.
What would you say the recovery time was for you? Like, was it as fast as that you expected?
Um, it was 6 weeks, and like I said, it was I think now, um, do they do liposuction now? I'm not sure. Can you answer that?
That I'm not sure.
My
That I'm not
recovery
sure.
was to able to get up and go, and it was 6 weeks.
Okay. Okay.
I was off.
Which is, yeah, 4 to 6 weeks is what I, looked into. But yeah, I just
Yeah,
wanted to find out how yours was.
yeah.
Um,
I was really sore, but it was worth
yeah.
it. I mean, I won't lie. I was really sore.
You're talking about laparoscopic surgery. Is that what you were mentioning about?
No, no,
Okay.
I had a huge incision. I don't know if they do laparoscopy now, but at that time they did the huge incision, like from your belly button all the way up your back. That's
Okay.
what I have.
Okay, because nowadays they do the laparoscopic surgery, because you mentioned liposuction. I think you meant laparoscopic.
Yeah, laparoscopy. I don't know what I
Okay.
must have said the wrong word, but
That's okay.
I'm sorry, but I think now they're able to do that. Back then, they didn't offer that.
I see.
But
Okay.
but I I don't know because I've never been a recipient, but they told me at that time the surgery for the recipient was easier than it
Mhm.
was for the donor.
I see.
But
Kimberly, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but I would encourage anyone that can be a donor to do it, if because it's just
Mhm.
to give somebody life and to change their life and let them, my dad was able to go on and live a normal life. It's just, I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Kimberly, you had, would you like to chime in? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, you were asking, how do you go about asking a donor? And I will say, I live my life on social media. I'm pretty transparent for many reasons. One, to share my story and kind of journal it for myself, but two, to share because there are so many people out there that don't know anything about kidney disease and the process that we go through. So by me sharing my story, I had people come forward that I didn't even ask. And that just, I was dumbfounded because I had someone from kindergarten that I'd known that I hadn't seen who came forward. I had a coworker come forward. And when when my cousin offered, then when it came time, my husband's like, well, Tony offered. And I was like, yeah, I can't just, like, how do you ask? Because it's not like you're like saying, hey, can I borrow $20? You're asking someone to give of themselves. But
that's correct.
You'd be surprised. And, programs like the Big Ask, Big Give that the Kidney Foundation does, that really helps people know or broach that, because it is a hard thing to do.
Yes.
Because you're asking someone to give of themselves. But my donor, my husband and my donor, they did it. My dad, they were gone before I was out of the hospital. My dad, texted me a picture in front of the fireplace, and I was still there. So I think my cousin said the hardest part, in all honesty, he said, because they do it laparoscopically, was the air that they put into your belly so that they can get in and see. So he said the gas was the worst part. Quite honestly, more than the sutures and everything. But I say, you can ask people. You'd be surprised how many people, and even now, because I share my story, people are asking me how they're thinking about donating and how do they go about doing that in an anonymous way. So you'd be surprised.
Thank
I
you,
agree.
Kimberly. Yeah.
I agree, because there are so many people that do not know about kidney disease. And I'm not putting down, don't take this the wrong way, I'm not putting down cancer, but cancer is more in the media than kidney disease. And there's many people I talk about that don't know anything about dialysis or anything. And they're just, people are not well schooled on kidney disease. I mean, and then you start talking to them about what dialysis is and donors. There needs to be more information out there, I think.
I absolutely. And Carter, I would like to, again, you're a hero. You've had it 3 times and you didn't give up, and the motivation is just extraordinary. And yeah, that's, you're a great testament for others. Thank you. Do you have any advice? I get asked a lot on this particular question, when I tell my patients, ask your family, like, see who can donate. They are so hesitant to do so because they always tell me that's like $1 million question. I can't do that. I can't do that. How would you encourage patients? What is your advice?
Yeah, that is the $1 million question, and it is hard. It's really hard. How do you ask for something like that? My first 2 transplants, they came from family members, and they were fighting each other to give me a kidney. My 3rd transplant, I was out of those options. And so I really struggled with that. For those of you out there who don't like asking for help, of which I am one, it's just really hard to do it. We did go to one of the National Kidney Foundation Big Ask, Big Give presentations, and those really are good. I would encourage people to go to that if they're thinking about it. What we ended up doing, since I was so hesitant to ask, my wife wasn't, however. And so if somebody has a companion, a friend, a a spouse, whoever, who might advocate for you. That can be really helpful. And I'm not a big social media guy at all, but I have a great circle of friends. And so what my wife Jill did was she sent an email entitled Kidney Champions. And, again, I didn't want this to be like I'm asking them to donate to me, but if I can take that circle of friends and then each of them could reach out to their circle of friends, suddenly we're talking, a pretty good pool of people to consider this. And so what our ask is that if you'd be willing to be a kidney champion for me and reach out to people, And so yeah, that was really, and of course, and I wanted her to make it clear that I wasn't asking anybody for a kidney, and I should have known better because, of course, many of those people went through the process, and so that was incredible. Again, it's just so hard to put your arms around that somebody would be willing to do that, but having kidney champions in your corner, I think, is something that's at least for us, it felt like we were doing something, and not in a way where we were, directly asking people.
You brought up a great point, Carter, like having that team effort, like making sure that you have someone to also there to advocate for you. That's a plus.
Yeah.
Because then you're not just working alone, because you have somebody, a partner who works alongside you and able to help you through the process. Because
Right.
I do have a lot of patients, they're not tech savvy. They don't really go on social media. And some of them, they don't want to.
Yeah.
So in such instances, there's always another way, but they have a great family support. So
Yeah.
then they need to have that partner that they can work along with to make sure that they start this journey and that they're there for them from the beginning till the end. And that's a great point. Thank you.
And all of us have stories, and it's important to share your story with those people, and so they learn a little bit about what you're going through and what the process is, and just give some perspective and background on why they're getting this email.
Right. Now, I know Bill, and you had mentioned in the beginning, Bill and you guys were best friends. So I have to ask Bill, like the fact that you guys have had that relationship and been friends forever, did that make it easier when Carter approached you and asked for the kidney?
Did it make it easier?
Did it make easier for you to make a decision to say yes?
I suppose it did. Yes. As I mentioned earlier, hey, to be evaluated to be approved as a donor, number one is great. And so I was just thinking that, hey, there'd be a paired exchange, that sort of thing. I was not anticipating, but was pleasantly surprised that the decision was that I could be a direct donor, and to be involved with the individual that and I say we is really a family decision on our part, not just my decision, that to be involved with the individual that was in need. It made the decision, I would say, a little bit easier on that score, Anitha.
Yeah, thank you. And I know that there were some of you guys, Kimberly, I know you mentioned as well, I believe Terry did too, that you guys were on dialysis for a while, but before you had actually went ahead and had the transplant done. So what was, because it takes a while for you to be listed and to really have that what was the motivation that you had to get to that endpoint? Because that's another question that I get from my patients a lot. You know, I've been on the list for 4 years now. I haven't received a call. So, you know, but it's there, it's coming. Like, what is it that kept you going? Like, to just say, you know what, I'm gonna have my day pretty soon. Like, what made you what gave you that motivation to keep going?
I think for me, it really was, again, my kids and my family, because dialysis is a hard process to go through. And I know for me, the first time I had dialysis, I didn't have any true knowledge or education about what it was. I was just thrown into it. So the first time was really, really difficult, and I did not react well. And it was hard for not only me, but for my family, because I didn't respond well to it and I was having such difficulty with it. My whole family had to pitch in to help get me there, to help get me home, because initially I was able to drive myself, and then it got to the point where I wasn't. The second time around, when I had to go back to the center, it's hard because everybody, when you leave and you get your kidney, everybody's like, goodbye, farewell. And so when I came back, they were like, oh, you're back? But the second time I was fortunate in that I was able to do home hemo. And that in and of itself made the experience drastically different, more palatable, because you're at the center and it takes such a large part of your life, because you have to be there 3 days a week for 4 hours on the machine. So being able to be home, we created a special room. We took my son's room and turned it into my dialysis den. And so when I came home, my daughter had decorated it, and I had my own lazy boy. And that way, when I was on dialysis, the family came in and they sat with me. My kids' friends sat with me, and so it made it not so intrusive. And that I wasn't losing that time with my family. But it is definitely a hard process and a hard adjustment, and the needles are huge. And so you have to get used to that. And I had a fistula. And so it made it home hemo for sure. If you're able to do that, and if your center offers it, I would say check into it and do the training.
Would you also say you had more flexibility with the home hemo versus the in-center dialysis?
Absolutely, because we were able to schedule it around my schedule and what we needed to do. So as long as I got the prescribed amount of days of time and days that I needed to get it, I was able to be flexible with the time, whether I did it in the morning or night. And so it allowed me to feel more present in the activities versus the set Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you're in this certain window time. So I was able to be a lot more active and present in those moments of my kids, family members, and just life in general.
I see. Terry, I know you had mentioned that you were on peritoneal dialysis, correct?
Yes, I did peritoneal. I did it 10 hours at night, and I also had to do it 4 hours during the middle of the day. Unfortunately, in 2014, my body started fighting itself, and I was hospitalized for 6 months. So had a lot of excess fluid on me once I returned home. So I was doing 10 hours a night, 4 hours during the day. And my motivation was, when I started dialysis, peritoneal in 2012, my twin daughters had just graduated from middle school to go to high school. So they were my motivation. I was used to walking 3 miles in the morning, 3 miles in the evening with my English pointer. So she was there with me. She was my motivation as well, because she wanted to know what was going on. And it was difficult. I went through 5 cyclers when I first started peritoneal dialysis, to the point where the president of Fresenius asked me to be on the client relations team at Fresenius because I went through so many cyclers that were inoperable. But the experience was something in and of itself. I was grateful to the Fresenius staff and Olympia Fields. And even though you try to do everything by the book, mistakes do happen. I rode Metra and wasn't feeling well and found out I had peritonitis. So I didn't think I was touching anything because, like I said, to this day, people think I'm a nut because I still wear masks, still wear gloves, and I'm not doing an exchange, but I try to make sure that, you know, I am secure with whatever I'm touching or whatever I'm doing. So the training for me stays with me even to this day.
That's good. That's wonderful to hear. Yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap up now, but this was a very healthy discussion. You guys are all awesome. I consider all of you guys as heroes. Thank you for taking the time to come in to this podium and just giving us your experience to help others. And this time I would like to turn over to Kimberly. She's going to remember Lana Schmidt. I'm going to end it at that. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, last week, the transplant community lost a very faithful, and dedicated warrior. Lana Smith took her last sleep on Thursday. I met Lana in 2015 here at UI Health. She was the second patient to receive the Solaris treatment and protocol. Once she got it, she was dedicated to ensuring that everyone had access to any and all information about kidney disease, legislation, organ donation, transplantation, and any insurance or anything. It will be a huge loss to those of us that knew Lana personally and those who knew Lana from afar. She was small, but she was mighty. And I know that she is taking a good rest because she did a job well done in making sure that she lived a life that was worthy and dedicated to her donor. If I might ask that we take a moment of silence just to remember Lana and the lives that she touched. And with that, I will turn it over.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kimberly, Anitha, and all of our panelists today for this wonderful discussion. As we start to end, I just wanted to remind everybody to sign up for our next session of Take Charge, which begins next Thursday, May 30th. It's virtual. And during Take Charge, it's an 8-week workshop. So we'll be meeting 10 to 12:30 every Thursday for 8 weeks. And we'll talk about managing your chronic disease, including diabetes, high blood pressure, chronic kidney disease. We'll talk about action planning, and we'll give you a toolbox to help manage that chronic condition. And then the very last 2 weeks, we'll really focus on kidney health, and we'll end the program with an expert panel. So Kimberly is one of our facilitators. I will be the other facilitator, and we really hope that we'll see you there. But thank you, everybody, for attending today, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day.
You.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.